Hello everyone, my name is Josh and this is Whimsical and Interesting Musings, and today we're going to weathering. Kitara, you sang, it sang, he's come home at last, and he's so cold, let me in your window. Oh yeah, I'm doing Avatar The Last Airbender. I know I didn't do the initial introduction where they introduce all the four elements, but I thought that's kind of boring, so why not combine Avatar The Last Airbender with Kate Bush? So it's something that all you guys like and I like as well, coupled with something that I like. So yeah, the songs of Kate Bush coupled with the Avatar opening. You missed a beat there, guys. Creators of Avatar, you had money on the wins there. But yes, this is going to be my review for Avatar The Last Airbender. Or more specifically, I'm going to cut this in half between the first 7 episodes and the later half of the season. So it's going to be a two-parter, like with my Musical Mondays review. And this particular series is pretty damn good. I really like it. From the off, the show is kind of doing a very good job of showing off this very epic and very grand story of a famous, powerful being who has to go into hiding after basically a single element, a most destructive element, fire, basically comes into effect. So what my musical sequence failed to mention was that the entire region of this magical land is separated into all these different elements: earth, wind, fire, water, and earth, wind, fire, and water, and or air, fire, and water, and they're all separated into different nations: the Earth Kingdom, the Fire Nation, the Water Tribe, and the Air Nomads, and they all lived in peace and harmony, and everything changed until the Fire Nation attacked. And then the Avatar fled in the night. It was bound that he was gonna lose the fight. He was found 1,000 years later, encased in ice. Something to do with weathering heights. Sorry, I'm gonna stop making references to Kate Bush, but I found it really fun to do that. Like, I was actually trying to compose it as I was making breakfast this morning. And let me know what you thought of my little musical interlude to Avatar. Did you like it, or am I going to get a bunch of hate comments saying, how dare you do that to the opening theme of Avatar? Like, how dare you taint it with the legacy of Kate Bush? Like, I don't care. I like Kate Bush's music, and I'm going to sing whatever I want to sing. And it's Musical Mondays, damn it. So, yeah, Whimsical and Interesting Musings, this one is. But, yeah, I'm going to talk about Avatar right now. And yeah, this episode's pretty good. The first episode is called The Boy Found in Ice. And this episode starts off very simply. We follow the Water Tribe, 2 members of the Water Tribe by the name of Kitara and Sokka. And they are both completely different, even though they are siblings. Kitara is a waterbender. She's a waterbender in training, and her brother is kind of like the head of the guard. He's like the main protector. Not necessarily the head of the guard, but he's basically the guy who loves to combat, and he loves to, take on people and, train his other villagers to, fight off the Fire Nation should they come knocking. And while they're out getting fish for their tribe for supper, they stumble across an avalanche where they basically try to avoid it, and then on their way there, they find a massive ring of ice, or a massive ball of ice, in which a boy is encased inside. And when they crack the ice open, they reveal a boy, a monk by the looks of things, and his flying bison by the name of Appa. And Appa is adorable, I have to say. He's absolutely adorable, he's wonderful, and he's voiced by the same guy who voiced Klaus, the talking fish, in American Dad. That's an interesting little Easter egg there. But yeah, this particular episode is a pretty damn good way of starting off the series. It establishes what the actual setup of the show is, introduces the elements, introducing this very kind of very healing and very majestic, but also equally destructive element, and an entire tribe of people who engage in this practice. Well, Kitara does anyway, and she's in training. She's starting to learn all the nooks and crannies, and yeah, I really am sorry in advance to my cousins for that little opening number. I tried to figure out a very inventive way in which I could introduce this to people without, going straight into the introduction. And I tried to do it to the tune of Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights. I hope you guys like that. But yeah, onto the episode. we're introduced then to Aang, who is a very energetic, very plucky, and very likeable boy who is very, very kind of, happy to see people. He's especially happy to see Kitara, and he reacts to Kitara's brother Sokka by actually prodding him in the face, like he's saying, "Are you real?" I love that entire moment. I love that playfulness, and that turning into a bit of a gag that actually comes into play much later on. That was actually really a great little nod to the creators, and I like how this show, even though it is very gritty in places, it still has the ability to make people laugh and to make people smile and to have moments of levity and humour as well, because there's a lot of dark stuff that happens in this show and really upsetting stuff too, but what's really good is they manage to balance that out with humour especially. So when Aang is introduced to the village, everyone just loves him. There's no secrecy, there's no E.T. or 11 from Stranger Things shenanigans here where they try to hide Aang, and he's this very powerful being and they try to hide him. There's no ET going on here, which I kind of like. When he has this dream about becoming the Avatar and mastering the elements and kind of becoming overwhelmed and becoming like this evil figure, he wakes up in the Water Tribe, and everyone introduces themselves to him, and they all very much take a liking to him right off the bat. And that just goes to show that Aang is just such an infectiously likeable person, and it's very hard not to smile when he smiles or whenever he has that goofy grin or that goofy expression on his face. It's very hard to not smile and really just enjoy his company. But he's a fantastic main protagonist. He's very likeable, but he's also a character that fails a lot and messes up a lot, and I really like the fact that he's not perfect. So, introducing us to our main antagonist of the series, the Fire Nation, under the helm of the exiled Prince Zuko, voiced by Dante Basco, who, if you're a fan of any of Steven Spielberg's films, he played Rufio in Hook, so I know him as Rufio in Hook, so I was actually quite surprised to hear his voice in this show, and he actually plays Prince Zuko with a lot of depth, and he is basically established as the main villain of the episode, or the series so far, but as we get nearer to the episodes, as we get further in, we realise that there's a lot more to this character than meets the eye. He has a bruise on his eye, like a very red, overpowering bruise on his eye, and we don't know why that is. We can see that he didn't have a very happy childhood because he's very stern and, in the words of Joker, very serious, and he really doesn't crack a smile at all. And if he does do anything comedic, it's purely by accident, and it's purely because of his uncle, who he travels with. But for the most part, he is learning to be a firebender, but he's also learning to sort of reclaim his right to the head of the table at the Fire Nation Kingdom, and he needs to get the Avatar in order to do that. So he finds out that the Avatar exists through a particular trick that Aang does that actually ends up getting him discovered. So Prince Zuko decides to go over to the Water Tribe and try to figure out where he's hiding. But instead of actually, hiding him and Prince Zuko doing the Darth Vader thing in Obi-Wan, where he basically, just he hurts all the villagers to get, the Avatar's attention, because they will come out if he does that. He just decides to come out right away, and he begins a duel with him of sorts, but then he says, wait, hold on, I'll come with you if you promise that you won't, hurt any of these people, because they're very nice to me, they've given me a place to stay, they've fed me, they've clothed me, they've made me feel, very welcome and very safe, don't hurt them. And Zuko doesn't really say anything, he just simply nods and says that's pretty much as good as his word, he won't harm anyone, and he goes off into their prison ship. And it's during this scene that we really see how powerful Aang really is. The way he uses air to pretty much avoid the guards. And there's even a moment where he actually literally swoops under their feet and actually goes through their legs and actually, does all these crazy martial arts things. But it's really impressive how powerful he can be just mastering the element of air. And it's with this particular sequence that Katara begins to grow quite fondness for Aang, and whether it's actually romantic or whether it's purely the fact that he's very likeable and very charming, but then again, who wouldn't want to, be friends with Aang, even if it's just a friendship thing. It's really, fantastic that, she has managed to develop this connection with him. But it's not romantic, at least not yet, which is absolutely amazing. So it really does progress that relationship in a very interesting direction, where it doesn't quite say romance yet, but it is a friendship of sorts, which I really love. And I'm glad they didn't go there right away, because that's very easy to it's very easy trap to fall into when you're telling a story like this. Like it's all too tempting to kind of just say that there's immediately romantic chemistry going on with them right away. But what's very clever is that they don't tell you right away that they're going to be romantic. Yes, it could be considered romantic on Aang's side of things, but again, he's been trapped for 100 years, 112 years in ice. So obviously he's going to, start to experience a lot of, romantic flutterings and all these other things. So he is going to feel more, more keen to develop romantic relationships and things like that. But he's still a child at the end of the day, and he still has to pretend, he still has to be a child, even though he's been spending 100 years in ice. So yeah, I like the fact that there is a little bit of a fondness for him that she develops, but it's more a friendship thing. And I really do like the fact that she tries to go out on a boat on her own, and at first she thinks Sokka is completely utterly disagreeing with her and saying, no, this is a stupid idea, you're being reckless, my dad told us to keep you safe and everything like that. And she just simply says, no, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to try to find him, try to get him back. And he goes, Katara, are you just going to sit there arguing with me, or are you just going to come along? I love Sokka's character so much. He's so wonderful. He's really funny too. I love a lot of his bits, especially the bits where he just, where Aang prods his face with his staff or whatever. Little comedic moments like that really make it work. But yeah, I love the fact that everyone, including their grandmother, is on board with them going to go and rescue the Avatar. And they rescue him from the boat in a very awesome action sequence, and they begin their journey on Appa, the flying bison. Yip yip. And they end up going all the way to the Avatar Temple to master the art of airbending, waterbending, and earth and fire eventually. I can see why fire is the last one, because fire is a very, destructive element, and if done inappropriately or done irresponsibly, it can have massive repercussions. So the fact that that's kind of like the A-star level, if I can use real world gradings here, the kind of A-star level to a overpowered being, then that's pretty wise to do so, because it is a very powerful element. But this leads to an episode, and I'm going to jump along through the episodes, because I do think there's a lot of elements that do kind of add to a much greater whole. There is an episode where they go back to the Air Kingdom, and he sees that his old mentor has pretty much vanished. All his friends and all his family. His family isn't really a family, it's more like a community of monks. And all his friends are gone, his mentor is all but dust. Everybody's kind of, gone. They've either been... It's revealed very quickly that, the Fire Nation attacked the Air Kingdom and wiped out a good majority of the monks. And this leads Aang to go into the Avatar state, which is where he basically shuts himself off. He doesn't have any kind of, control of his powers. He's just basically fueled with rage. If I can make a comparison between what this could be for me, is that if you've seen the show WandaVision, there is a scene where Wanda basically is at the end of her rope. She feels so defeated and so flustered. And it's a bit of a spoiler for WandaVision, so sorry if you're fans of WandaVision and you haven't seen it yet, but there's a scene where she basically just pours all her emotions, all her sadness, all her regrets, all her depression into just this magical force field that she creates, which ends up creating this, reality that she is directing, which is kind of like a sitcom thing. And I immediately, related to that. But the fact that he kind of feels so sad that he's actually shutting himself off and just creating these blind, destructive moments, even though he doesn't mean to be destructive, he kind of just ends up doing so because that's what happens when you're angry. That's what happens when you're frustrated. That's what happens when you're sad and you're overly emotional. You kind of end up, causing more harm than good, and you end up sometimes causing more trouble than you actually intend to. So Kitara does the friendly thing, and she actually tries to bring him down because she knows that he has a very strong connection and a very strong fondness for her, so she tries to talk him down. And she says, well, you have your family now. I'm sorry what happened to your family, what happened to your master and to your friends, but me and Sokka are your family now. We're not going to let anything happen to you, and we're really going to make sure that you do this and that you are able to really kind of be the best person that you can be and the best avatar that you can be. And that episode is particularly special to me because it really does kind of show how Aang is still a child. He still is a child even after all this time, and even though he's 112, he still is a child. Still doing the things that children do, which is he wants to play. Like the first thing he wants to do when he gets out of the ice is he wants to see the penguins. He is absolutely so amazed by the fact that he's seeing these penguins finally, and he's able to go outside the temple and he's able to have fun and enjoy himself. That's what he wants to do. And when he goes to a village called the Kyosha village, which is his other life before he became Aang, dedicated to a person who was a wielder of all four elements before he became Aang. And he goes to that village and he basically says he wants to swim with the big fishes. That's all he wants to do. So he's still as a child, and he's got this really big responsibility on his shoulders, and it's fantastically done. And I love how whenever you see his face sort of change, it really is just a fantastic way of showing that he is very sad. I mean, the Avatar state in itself is such a great idea because it's basically saying that if you go into this state, you're basically not yourself anymore, and you're kind of, giving yourself over to this very powerful aspect of oneself. And I really do like the fact that this mythology is so well thought out, and the fact that they're literally lifting from ancient traditions of karate, capoeira, and various other meditations, Buddhist meditations more than anything, and using a lot of these ancient traditions and using the yin and the yang as a symbol of balance, restoring balance to the universe, and having these two things together. The fact that in the later episodes there's a scene where the yin and yang are represented as fishes, and the fact that they need to be constantly in flux, constantly swirling around each other, that's how balance is created. But when they're gone, when one of them dies, what do? You get a new one, but you don't get a new one just by going to the shops. You go and get a new one by having someone who dedicates their life to the protection of the city that they're in. And if they say their, rights strong enough and they're able to wield water effectively, they can become the next fish. Essentially, they can transcend from their human form into a more majestic creature and restore that balance. Yes, it's a big commitment, but it's something that has to be done. And in this world, it really does add a layer of sadness, because a character who very easily kind of becomes, who this character is Sokka. He gets a love interest at one point, and it's this woman who is in charge of looking after the temple. She's head of a great dynasty in the water kingdoms, and in the water regions of this world. And she basically has to give up her life and her life with Sokka in order to fulfill this great role of being either the yin or the yang in this particular circle. And it's very heartbreaking, but it's very beautifully done. And I just really like the fact that this show takes its audience very seriously. And this is a children's show. This was originally pitched as a children's show. And I like how the creators were able to really kind of take their audience seriously and not say that just because we're dealing with children, we can have goofy stuff, we can have really dumb stuff. Yes, there is goofy stuff in the show, but it's funny goofy stuff. It's stuff that makes you laugh and makes you genuinely feel like it's a character-based thing. Like the stuff with Aang prodding Sokka when he first meets him. It's what Aang does, because he can't believe that he's awake after all this time and he's seeing these people. He's seeing people finally for the first time ever. And he literally has that character moment, and even in a scene where Sokka is learning to be a warrior, and he basically has to don this um, the Kyosha garb of the warrior. It's basically a garb that, you know, is reserved. It's a dress, basically. And he tries to make it sound like, oh, yeah, I'm a proud, strong warrior. But then Aang pops his head through the door and says, hi, Sokka, nice dress. And he just kind of, his face just sort of deflates. And he's like, really? Seriously? But yeah, all that stuff is character based. It's not forced. It doesn't feel like they're just doing it just for the children. And it actually feels like it has a purpose in the general story overall. And that's what I'm really going to say about weathering. sorry, I'm going to stop doing my Kate Bush impersonation. But I hope you enjoyed this video, this first video on my Avatar: The Last Airbender, and review. And look forward to more of it very soon. I am going to be doing a much more stronger breakdown when I've watched all the episodes, but first I've got to actually watch the episodes first, so it might take a little bit longer for another video on Avatar to come out, but I hope this suffices my kind of overview of the show as a whole, and I hope you like it, and have a great day. And this has been Josh with Whimsical and Interesting Musings, bringing you whimsical and interesting musings every day, all year round. And I hope you're having a very good day, and take care, everyone. Look forward to my third part of my Oliver Musical Mondays review coming soon. Bye, have a good day, bye for now.